Boss tells View enough already. Dagan, according to the Daily Beast, Disney and ABC execs have told The View to tone down their Trump bashing because they're constantly doing it. Should they, though? I mean, isn't this their brand now? They got nothing left. If you take that away, what do they have?
Greg Gutfeld just went scorched earth on The View after Disney CEO threatened to pull the plug on them quicker than you can say ratings flop. Picture a roast so fiery, even Mickey Mouse would be sweating. But why did Disney get so heated? And how did Gutfeld flip the threat into pure comedy gold? Buckle up. This showdown's juicier than a theme park turkey leg at high noon.
The owner of ABC News and daytime talk show The View is now the subject of a new report claiming CEO Bob Iger is urging the show's host to tone down their criticism of President Donald Trump.
Always want us to be respectful and do the things and talk about the stuff we talk about. We can do all of that. But when you are blatantly giving the country the middle finger, that is blatant. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to take the plane.
Don't you think when he lets these white Africans in and claims that's giving the middle finger to the black community?
When the magical land of talking animals and mouse-eared empires, Disney makes a decision. Usually used to threaten cancellation, it targets poorly received cartoons or a movie office failure with a computer-generated raccoon having father problems. However, the fairy wand this time was aimed directly at the screaming hands of daytime TV. The perspective—
Nothing. As if the show is some delightful chit-chat fest without the political talk.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a lullaby and a shot of Dickel.
Yeah.
If they're not ripping on Trump. Here's Joy. She's going to share her feminine hygiene routine and tell you how to prevent your old tatas from going down and having a picnic with your belly button.
Indeed, at last, the once holy circle of couch-bound pontificators pushed the envelope so forcefully that it flew back and slapped each of their group's Botoxed foreheads. Like a stray churro in Disneyland, the news the same corporate tycoons who had essentially granted The View hosts PR immunity for years abruptly changed their minds. It seems that the ratings magic is no longer being brought in by watching 5 professionally incensed ladies quarrel over whose celebrity should be canceled next.
That's like a cross between The View and Hee Haw. Except hoo-ha. Wow, that is pretty good, isn't it? It's hee-haw, me too-haw. I don't know. Michelle, you okay, Michelle? At least somebody got it, even when I was thinking, I go, does that make any sense?
Yes, it made perfect sense.
I had no idea that a daily teacup screen fest could not be the centerpiece of a multi-billion-dollar strolls right on cue, and the dollar media empire Greg Gutfeld, the resident prankster on Fox News, seems to have made his career out of roast sessions with the accuracy of a Gordon Ramsay meltdown, except the food metaphors and more sarcasm. As if it were the Hindenburg of daytime television, bloated, blazing, and full of hot air, Gutfeld took one glance at Disney's hint of threat and turned it into an open invitation to burn The View.
To lighten up, and this is what they did on the Qatar jet, or Qatar jet.
The United States has accepted the plane. Is going to cost—
He has accepted the plane. The United States has not accepted the plane.
He representing the
He's
government.
not representing
He's
us.
the government. Why does he want it, do you think? Because he's the king? He wants to go around the world like the king?
It goes to him and his presidential library, so it becomes his plane.
But we all know that that's BS, okay?
No.
He's not giving that to his presidential library. He's going to take it, he's going to fly and use it. But he's not supposed to have it. I got the Constitution right here. He's not supposed to have the plane. Okay?
All right, my point, Michelle. If you take that away from them, I don't know what they do.
Yeah.
Like it's like what Dagan said. There isn't anything else.
He didn't need to say it outright. That's the brilliance of Gutfeld's mockery. Sharp, sarcastic, and laced with enough side-eye to warrant a sunscreen advisory. His takedown was wrapped in glittering disdain, peeling back the curtain on a show that's become less of a talk show and more of a televised group chat with a superiority complex. The View has long branded itself as the voice of women, so long as those women agree on everything, vilify the right people, and love the sound of their own virtue signaling echoing off ABC's studio walls. Watching it feels like sitting in on a chaotic group therapy session, one where no one listens, everyone talks over each other, and the therapist walks out halfway through to join the Real Housewives. So, what got Disney's ears steaming? After years of letting The View spiral into a smug echo chamber full of reheated outrage and Twitter regurgitations, someone at the top finally had a eureka moment. Loud doesn't equal insightful. Viewership wasn't just dipping, it was nosediving faster than the logic in a Marvel Phase 4 plot. When your main audience is people who forgot to turn off the TV after Bluey, you've officially got a brand crisis.
I love what you said about wanting to entertain audiences, critics saying Disney's too woke, but you're just putting out storytelling.
We are. Look, I don't really like the term woke because I think it's an umbrella term that I'm not 100% sure I even know what it means. And one could argue that sometimes it's used too liberally. That said, our primary purpose is to entertain. And where we can entertain responsibly, obviously, we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world. But the first thing we need to do is entertain.
Gutfeld, never one to pass up a chance to body check the flailing liberal media, pounced with the precision of a late-night assassin. He painted The View as the Roman Colosseum of daytime TV, except instead of gladiators, it's overpaid hosts, hurling passive-aggressive barbs and recycled Instagram mantras. And the audience? Not a roaring crowd, but the collective sound of America quietly cringing itself into a coma. He didn't just critique the format, he tore through the cast like a sarcasm-fueled wrecking ball. Each host became a walking stereotype, as subtle as a Spirit Halloween costume on clearance. There's the intellectual who mistakes a thesaurus for a personality. The eternal victim who contributes little more than outraged expressions and audible sighs. The washed-up celebrity seemingly teleported in from a defunct soap opera, offering only confused stares and tales from a bygone era. And of course, the centrist, ever eager to appease both sides, yet folding faster than a paper straw in a venti latte. Disney's sudden threat to pull the plug didn't feel like censorship. It felt like mercy. A long overdue mercy killing, even by the standards of execs who greenlit Pirates of the Caribbean 6. And just as the panic set in, Gutfeld strolled in like the ghost of common sense, armed with punchlines and ready to remind everyone, sometimes satire is quality control.
It reminds me of, Joey, is that it's like, it is a microcosm of the Democrat Party. If you look at The View, it's tightly wound and miserable, largely female, hallucinating and angry. Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
Let's be honest. The View has morphed into a parody of itself, a weekly showcase of performative outrage masquerading as empowerment. Each episode feels like a crash course in how not to have a meaningful conversation. It's less a panel, and more like 5 Yelp reviews arguing about politics, all while forgetting where they even ate. As Gutfeld delivered his roast from a safe distance, you could practically hear the rusty gears of ABC's PR machine straining to spin the chaos. But this time, there was no saving it. Not when even Mickey Mouse was rumored to be side-eyeing. The morning time slot. You can only camouflage a ratings cliff for so long before someone peers through the telescope and notices the crash. The View was never just a talk show, it was a brand. One that once fancied itself a shaper of national dialogue. Now, it barely registers as background noise on a lunch break. The talking points are on rinse and repeat. The debates feel like pre-scheduled drama bursts, perfectly timed to wrap before the next commercial break. Gutfeld didn't just mock the show, he performed a full-on cultural autopsy. He held up a mirror and pointed at the smeared reflections of irrelevance, hypocrisy, and self-importance. He said what everyone was thinking, but too polite to admit. The View has become less of a show and more of a self-replenishing echo chamber of exhausted outrage. The cruel irony? A panel so obsessed with holding others accountable seems utterly allergic to self-reflection. Every conversation devolves into a contest of who can sound the most offended, the fastest. It's not dialogue, it's emotional speed chess, a circus of contradictions, now facing cancellation from the very media giant that once propped it up.
The The View. It's like, it's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Like, it's like here, let's look at this political oddity. You know, it's like, it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But The View is a victim of the sunk cost.
Let's not kid ourselves. This isn't about politics, it's about performance. The View doesn't inform, it emotes, it doesn't debate, it declares. It's not a news panel. It's a midday seance where facts are sacrificed and feelings hog the spotlight. Gutfeld didn't need to exaggerate a thing. The absurdity of the show does the heavy lifting. What made his mockery hit so precisely was its effortlessness. No elaborate monologue required. Just a glance, a smirk, a raised eyebrow, roasted. Because when a show becomes this predictably over the top, merely describing it feels like satire. And let's not pretend the ratings aren't the elephant in the studio. They're plummeting faster than a TikTok trend after a scandal. Audiences today have options, and they're choosing literally anything else. With competition from streaming platforms, podcasts, and even the soothing void of a blank wall, The View's outdated 2009 formula isn't cutting it. Meanwhile, Gutfeld's humor meets commentary format keeps gaining traction, especially with viewers tired of sanctimony and allergic to smugness. There's a message in that. People crave wit, not wailing, sharp insight, not shrill groupthink. Yet The View marches on, oblivious to the fact it has become the very caricature it once ridiculed. A bloated panel of overtalkers locked in a battle of who can outrage whom, each convinced their take is the moral compass America needs. Trouble is, the compass is spinning, the map is outdated, and the audience, they've already left the building.
Can you now speak the truth? And when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie, now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest. And they could be honest. All they would have to say is, look, we hate Trump so much. We were willing to lie about Joe Biden because we felt he was preferable. We thought our lying and our cover-up was on your behalf. Just say that. You're still scum, but at least you're an honest scum.
As Disney weighs its next move, The View hangs by a thread, one that's been unraveling for years. And Greg Gutfeld, he's the guy holding the scissors, grinning, reminding us all that the Emperor's new clothes are stitched entirely from recycled hashtags. In the end, the most devastating blow wasn't a punchline, it was a spotlight. One that illuminated the rotting foundation of a show too arrogant to adapt and too directionless to evolve. The View isn't controversial anymore, it's comical. And as Gutfeld demonstrated, sometimes all it takes to topple a paper tiger is a perfectly timed joke and the patience to watch it collapse under its own weight. If this really is The View's final act, let it be remembered not as a cultural institution, but as a cautionary tale. What happens when smugness replaces substance? And groupthink gets rebranded as insight. Somewhere in a Fox News studio, Gutfeld is probably raising a glass. Not in triumph, but in sheer disbelief that it took Disney this long to realize what audiences already knew. Because this wasn't just a roast, it was a requiem. Not just for a TV show, but for the idea that volume equals value and outrage equals intelligence. As the credits fade, the silence left behind might be the most profound thing The View has ever offered. And with that, we zoom out, past The View's meltdown, over the still smoking ruins of the liberal media landscape, where self-importance goes to die and common sense clocks out like it just sat through another Joy Behar monologue.
An anti-aging drug for dogs has moved closer to gaining FDA approval. Customers are already waiting in line. No, it's nothing personal. We just save money using the same picture 3 times.
Disney's threat to cancel The View wasn't just a rogue memo, it was the media equivalent of a meteor barreling toward the dinosaur nest. And yes, The View is the loudest, screechiest velociraptor in the pen. Here's the truth. The View isn't an anomaly, it's the poster child of a media genre that confuses groupthink for bravery, sanctimony for substance, and volume for virtue. This is the same ecosystem where credibility is earned not through insight, but by how dramatically you react when someone utters free speech, and where every disagreement is treated like the moral reboot of World War II. Spoiler, it's not. What's happening with The View is just the early cough before the full-blown existential flu hits mainstream media. Legacy liberal outlets have been limping toward irrelevance for years, clutching their pearls and calling it progress. But even the most persistent echo chamber eventually collapses, especially when no one's left to listen. Audiences today aren't interested in being scolded by a panel of multimillionaires pretending to be oppressed. They're tired of fake courage disguised as consensus. When everyone at the table agrees, just in slightly different tones, it stops being a conversation and starts sounding like satire, and people are tuning out.
This jackal! If you hate Kamala's cackle, according to The View's moo-moo-wearing mascot, Joy Behar, men are sexist if they're not a fan of Kamala's laugh, or funny women in general, especially if they're in bed. Roll it.
What really ticks me off about him, though, is this laughing Kamala remark. It's such a sexist remark, because a guy I was with over the weekend, a friend of mine, they said Kamala's laugh annoys me. Remember they said that about Hillary's laugh, that she was cackling. And men, they don't like a funny woman. We're afraid if you laugh or you make a joke, that maybe you'll do that when they're in bed with you.
Oh my.
Joy Behar in bed? Ooh. I thought cows slept standing up.
And the numbers don't lie. The View's ratings are plummeting faster than the mood in the studio when the teleprompter cuts out. Viewers are walking away from shows that deliver all the nuance of a brick through a window. Because here's the thing, people can smell pandering from a mile away, and it reeks worse than a Whoopi Goldberg hot take on a Monday morning. Meanwhile, across the media battlefield, Greg Gutfeld is laughing his way up the ratings chart. Not because he's reinventing the wheel, but because he remembered the wheel works. Humor, satire, and brace yourself, actually echoing what audiences are thinking instead of lecturing them for it. Radical, right? What makes this all the more poetic is watching liberal media, once smug in its cultural stronghold, now practically begging viewers to stay tuned while bleeding credibility by the second. For years, they wielded cancel culture like a sword, assuming it only swung one way. Surprise. When the corporate overlords turn the cancel cannon inward, it hits a little different, doesn't it? And that brings us to what feels like the final chapter in this media circus, the impending fate of The View, a reality TV drama disguised as daytime discourse.
I actually thought that was a nice break from the normal chatter. Right? Did you notice how the audience they couldn't tell the difference? Because generally it is a screaming match. And so you have the audience basically joining in. That stuff, it has a reverse effect. Like, it's making me more militant in my adherence to fossil fuels and to red meat. It's like I see that, I go, well, I'm going to just start eating a raw ribeye while driving a tractor trailer up a mountain of coal. Just like this the whole time. I'm not stopping. I'm coming for you, View. But you're right. It's all it's actually not right versus left. That's left versus left.
Yeah. Disney's threat might not be final, but it's a blazing warning shot. Even the most insulated hubs of ideological fluff aren't safe from extinction. The View now faces two options: reinvent itself entirely, which would require its hosts to suddenly develop self-awareness, and let's be real, that's not in the benefits package, or fade into irrelevance like a TikTok trend your mom just discovered. They've already played every card: moral outrage, faux intellectualism, performative activism. They've even tried rebranding shouting as dialogue. But now, all that's left is the shouting, the frantic, arms-flailing, ratings-chasing shouting of a show that once believed it was untouchable. Maybe if they yell loud enough, they'll convince someone they still matter. Or maybe, just maybe, they're trying to drown out the quiet hum of an audience slipping away, one remote click at a time.